The family office approach would be basically to see that uh, it is an investment which is driven with some purpose. If the promoters are very clear what they want to achieve, what's the kind of vision they have, and if they have a good, robust process in place, then that gives a comfort to the family office to make an investment. There are family offices where they are not fully equipped with the end-to-end diligence which is required to before they invest, before they cut a check into the company. The investment approaches, they might be a little more flexible, they are open, because these are families, the current generation who has probably studied abroad and they have come back, so they know the different systems which are available across the globe, right? So they are open to explore new opportunities, new strategies, but keeping the values intact.
Welcome to Inside Investors Mind. Today we are joined by Sri Priya NS, CEO of Entrust Family Office, one of India's leading multi-family offices. With over 2 decades of experience across consumer, retail, corporate and private banking, Sri Priya has advised some of India's most prominent business families and ultra-high net worth individuals on integrational wealth planning, succession and estate strategies, governance, framework and philanthropy. Let's get into this conversation with her to understand how family offices really work, their investment philosophy, and what really goes inside investors' mind while investing in a startup. Welcome, Sri Priya.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Looking forward for the conversation. Thank you for hosting me, your channel.
All right, so to begin with our conversation, my first question to you is, you have spent over 2 decades advising some of India's most prominent families. What really drew you to the world of family offices, and how has that shaped your own perspective as an investor or maybe as an advisor?
When we started, we formed our company as a SEBI registered investment advisory firm. But in the first year itself, we understood that families and UHNI clients, promoters of companies, etc., they need a lot of support, not just in wealth management, because they've already created wealth. They know how to create wealth, they've done successful businesses, etc. What they need support is more in terms of how do you preserve it, how do you transition this to next generation seamlessly, how do you take care of the complexities associated with the wealth which you've already created. That is what kind of legal compliance is required, what is the kind of governance process which are required, and so many things, right? So that is when we thought of creating a family office model wherein we just don't become an investment advisor to the families. We also help them in supporting in all of these facets, which is estate planning, sometimes mentoring the next generation, and then supporting them in their tax, governance, legal compliance, etc., real estate and property services, startup investments, investments into private equity, unlisted space, or uh, if they need any help in terms of cross-border transactions, etc. So that's how we became a family office. And today we manage close to around 80 families, and hence we are a multi-family office. So we started with one family, but we have scaled it into multiple families. So we are a multi-family office with a conflict-free model to advise the clients.
Now, coming to my next question, family offices are often seen as silent powerhouses. Since you're coming from the banking world, you can probably relate with it. But I want to understand from your perspective, what truly differentiates a family office investment approach from an, institutional investor or traditional wealth managers? Because that is one question which startups are often looking at, the difference between the two approaches.
First of all, family office approach is also an institutional approach, which means we are a long-term investors. Most of the time, the family office takes a long-term investment approach, and that means it's a patient capital, right? So the family office approach would be basically to see that it is an investment which is driven with some purpose. There is most of the time in the investments in the unlisted space will be basis their conversation with the promoters of the companies, the business owners, right? That's when they take a decision. And if there is an alignment of the investment model which the entrepreneur or the business owner is presenting, that's when the family office will look at further doing a due diligence and then understanding whether it makes sense to make an investment. And primarily, it's a patient capital, so they understand the various cycle of an entrepreneur of a business, right? Because in every business there are multiple cycles, and when a family office does investment, they understand that it will be cyclical. There could be challenges, but if the promoters are very clear what they want to achieve, what's the kind of vision they have, and if they have a good, robust process in place, then that gives a comfort to the family office to make an investment. Now, how do you differentiate a family office from wealth management? Wealth management, primarily, most of the players in the market are primarily driven with certain products. They come with a product based approach, and they mostly showcase a product or an investment opportunity with an angle to sell side, I would say, in our layman language, or in the language of financial advisors, it is called a sell side approach. Whereas as a family office, when I look at an investment, it is more a buy side approach. I'm going to be an investor, I'm going to be a partner in that investment journey. That's the approach which we take.
That's quite exciting to know. Also, if I look at the bouquet that Entrust really manages, so I, assume that you manage wealth for some of India's most prominent business families. So, what common investment philosophies or maybe thought process do you notice when they make an investment? So, just to understand what really goes inside investors' mind across these families.
So, like I said, investments into any unlisted private companies is purely basis each family's requirement, what is their preference. They interact with the promoters and the business owners, and they understand why or what kind of a business model it is, and that's when they say, okay, let's go ahead and understand a little more, and you can evaluate, and then we will commit on the investments, right? So the approach is very long term, it's patient capital. They're looking at some kind of a purpose which is meaningful, which is scalable, which can also give ROI, not just in terms of money value, but in terms of new value creation in the ecosystem. So that's the kind of investments which we have seen, and thankfully we have been blessed with some good names, good clients with whom we are associated with, and we have seen this across many families. And we are a firm believers of wise wealth. Our philosophy itself is about wise wealth, which means money is not just an end to anything, right? It has to have much more impact, meaningful purpose for which the money is put into use, right? So that's the philosophy we believe completely.
Shripriya, if we see the entire startup ecosystem today, it is, growing massively in India. But at the same time, when I talk to startups, when I meet entrepreneurs, I see them more interested, taking investments from VCs, from angel investors, or from government routes. I don't see this as a trend that people are going to family offices, or we can probably say that family offices are a little less popular when it comes to investment. So, do you see a gap here? Or if you see a gap, how can it be filled?
So, actually speaking, the trend is slightly changing in the last few years, at least in the last 4 or 5 years, or maybe 3 to 4 years. There's a good awareness about family offices which are set up exclusively for certain families, or it's a multi-family office like ours, where they are kind of investment focused, and there would be patient capital, which are meant for investments. So there are many startups and entrepreneurs who approach to us, family offices, directly. So the trend is definitely changing. But what I see as challenges, some of the family office, maybe if they are a single family office, they may not have the expertise required to do a complete diligence on an investment. See, when you do a startup investment, a private investment into a company and become a part of that cap table, there are multiple things which you need to take care of, right? So there are family offices where they are not fully equipped with the end-to-end diligence which is required before they invest, before they cut a check into the company. So that is one reason there are families who are restricting from entering into this private investment space. Number one challenge. Number two is, again, related to the same. You may not have all the resources available in-house to do a diligence in the company or in a startup, right? Because you need to do a technical diligence, financial diligence, legal diligence, because you're going to be part of that investment for at least a longer period, right? Any private investment or a startup investment is not a journey which is less than 5 to 7 years. It could be more than that, right, to see an exit. So you will have to have these capabilities in house before you make that investment. So that is the most important challenge, because of which families are not directly making investments. What we have seen as a trend is many of the family offices become co-investors in some of the private companies. And this co-investment is an opportunity which is tagged with certain funds, like large VC funds or PE funds, which is cutting a higher value check, where the fund has done all the diligence. And as a co-investor, I am just tagging along with them. I'm going with their diligence reports and then investing into the company directly. That is an approach which families have taken. But we at Entrust have an entire capability in-house. So we do have diligence team. We have an investment advisory team which does the diligence of any private investment which is showcased to our potential investors, right? So we do a diligence from a legal angle, from a technical angle, from a fundamentals. So we understand what is the merit of investing, and is that the right valuation? Is that the right time to enter into such a sector, such a company? And then we advise to the families. That's an advantage of having a multi-family office helping you with that. Again, many wealth management firms will not be able to give you this entire capability in-house, because wealth management firms are primarily led by bankers who come with the banking knowledge, financial knowledge, but legal capabilities may not be there. There are firms who have hired legal lawyers who can help in that, but that is slightly a different approach. But a multifamily office typically will have all of this in-house.
So, Shri Priya, we are living in a time of rapid shifts. If we see the global market, it is full of volatility, tech disruptions, and then there are new asset classes also that are emerging. So when we go to other investment approaches, there are certain preferences that we are going to invest in this sort of tech, this sort of innovation. So when it comes to family offices, what is the trend among them? Because you are closely working with them, as an advisor. So probably you will be the right person to answer this question.
So most of the families prefer this private investment into sectors which they understand or which they have a belief or a conviction, right? They would like to be associated with companies from sectors where they have already made some investments or they are a part of that same ecosystem. Like, for example, I'm an automobile manufacturer. I would rather invest into some companies which are some of the ancillary to the automobile industry itself, or maybe in the alternative energy space or EV space, etc. Right? So each family decides what are their preferred sectors where they are okay to have a private investment. Very unlikely that family will say, okay, I don't understand the space, but if you're advising, I will go with that, which sometimes doesn't happen. Most of the times it doesn't happen. So families prefer to invest in a sector, in a company which they understand, where they understand the cyclical nature of it, where they understand what kind of cash flows can be expected in such a business, what kind of scalability is there, what is a turnaround possible with technology adaptation, etc. So then they will be open for such investments.
Also, Shri Priya, if you see the trend, the newer generation is, bit impulsive or bit open to, spend their money. Now, if we see family offices, these offices are not restricted to just one person. These are, these include generations to generations and to generations. So I want to understand from you how the newer generation in the family office space is different from their founding, members. So is there a difference in their, are they rigid? Are they open? Is there a difference between the, investment approach? How flexible are they?
So, between every generation, definitely there is a gap. There is not gap, I would say there is a difference, right? The first generation will not be the same as the second generation. The third generation will not be the same as the second generation. So the same is applicable to investment approach as well, right? So the behavior and the characteristics of each generation will vary to some extent. When it comes to investment, what we have seen is where the earlier generations have created wealth by whatever ways, right? It could be business, operating businesses where they have created wealth. The second generation may have continued it with some liquidity coming out of the business, which kind of reinvested into the same operating business, right? But now what we are seeing is the new generation or the current generation mostly prefers to carve out some of the wealth from the operating business and then keep that as a separate corpus, which can be used for further wealth creation by different strategies, not necessarily the same operating business model, right? Because the operating business have already created a wealth and there is a capital which has been taken out from there, or there is a profits which has been already taken out. That becomes a new corpus for the wealth creation further. So the various approaches the current generation is open to. They are more flexible, but it will be mostly aligned with the thought process of the first generation, like in terms of values, right? The first generation or the second or the third, in terms of values, what are the values which they want to preserve? What are the values which they want to look at while creating the wealth further? These will remain common, right? That is the most important, the fundamental principle of a family office is how do you inherit those values? How do you transcend those values from the first till the current, right? And then going forward. So though the approach could be different, the investment approaches, they might be a little more flexible, they are open, because these are families, the current generation who has probably studied abroad and they have come back. So they know the different systems which are available across the globe, right? So they are open to explore new opportunities, new strategies, but keeping the values intact. They would want to stick to the values, the fundamentals which the parents or the grandparents have laid out for the family. So that is something which I would firmly believe, that family offices are here to protect the values, not just the wealth. And in the past, people used to say that the first and the second generation creates wealth. Third generation kind of, completely erodes, and by the time it goes towards the next, there's hardly any wealth left. But that concept is totally changing. I mean, that is no more a reality, and that is where the family offices come as a strong pillar, vehicle to protect and safeguard the wealth for multiple generations.
So, I have also seen this trend that, family offices are becoming like the governance and the structure is becoming more formalized. So, do you see this as a defensive move to protect wealth or just a proactive step to, unlock maybe the new opportunity?
Governance is the most important aspect when you have a family office, or when you are in the family office, right? So why the governance becomes important is not just for wealth preservation. It's also because the things are becoming more and more complex. It's so fluid these days, right? So the change happens so rapidly. So unless you have process in place, and like in the past where our forefathers, our parents, our grandparents used to depend on one CA, one accountant, one person who was mostly reliable for every numbers, every MIS, right? That may not work in the future, because you cannot have a people dependent approach in today's fast moving world, in today's world where things are changing so rapidly. So you need to have governance in place. You need to have systems, process, checks and balances. And that is where the family office focuses, not just in wealth preservation. It is also very important to have these in place, have a governance process. And in my interactions, I find the current generation, be it third or the fourth or whatever, the current generation and the next generation is very much particular about having governance in place. So they are institutionalizing many of the processes which their parents and grandparents have created. For example, if they had a trusted person in-house, now they're looking at how do we create an institution vis-a-vis a person. That is, having 2 or 3 accountants, having a maker and a checker, having an organization which is outsourced, doing certain checks and balances, so that as a family office, I'm there, but I also have somebody who's doing certain part of the process.
So, it was quite exciting to know about how family offices really, operate. But coming to Entrust, so Entrust emphasizes, on relationship first and conflict-free advisory. So how does this approach really differentiate you in India's growing wealth management landscape? Because there are many companies out there doing the same thing, but how your approach really differentiates?
Both myself and Rajmohan Krishnan, who's a principal founder of Entrust, both of us are in this area of service or business mainly because we both believe we are people's person, and we believe dealing with money is more about dealing with people, because money and emotions are kind of intertwined, right? And especially in India, where families are full of emotions and we are dealing with complex nature of families who are evolving, emotions which are evolving, right? So this is a little more complex area, and hence a family office which comes with the empathy aspect and the foresight is well poised to deal with such families which are growing their wealth exponentially. And in India, it is especially the cusp of the right time, I would say, where wealth is growing exponentially, and at the same time, the complexities are also increasing, right, within the families itself. Because earlier the family was glued in one geography. Today, the family is scattered in the sense they are geographically placed in different parts, right? Or they are not under the same roof. So the complexities are only going to increase. Plus, outside world, the things are changing so fast. Hence, a family office approach vis-a-vis a wealth management approach, which is more only investments driven or product based approach, right? In a non conflict family office model, what we focus is, along with the wealth preservation, the empathy aspect, what is required to deal with the different family members, the kind of foresight which is required to ensure that the wealth is seamlessly transitioned across multiple generations. So these are things which we take care of, and that I would say is clearly the differentiator.
Thank you so much, Shri Priya. It was really, enriching to hear you. And I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks.